Joey Yaheim, welcome to the pod, man.
What's up, brother? What's up, man? It's long overdue. We were saying literally right before we started the recording how long overdue we are to have a conversation. So I'm glad we're doing it here.
Yeah, man, definitely. It's been man, maybe since Austin since we've actually, really connected. A few text messages here and there, but actually hop on the phone and reconnect. So it's been a little while, and what a fucking year and a half it's been, since we were there, and all that's changed in both of our lives and all that we've
Totally, dude.
done. It's fucking insane. And so really pumped to catch back up here and really dig into more of what all has transpired for you over the past year and a half or so. And so let's start out with, what are the attributes of a default king?
Man, that's a hot question right out of the gate. That's good. The attributes of a default king. I mean, ultimately, where the name of the company stems from is the idea of default actions is a big thing we teach, and anybody that's on our timeline just sees us talking about it over and over and over again. But really, at the end of the day, what default actions are is they're just subconscious habits, right? It's the habits that we have just ingrained in us, and we always compare it to something like brushing your teeth, right? So if I had to narrow down the actual character traits of somebody that's in the program or somebody that's like really killing it, it's somebody that's truly in control of those default actions. It's somebody that started with discipline and evolved into just a completely new identity, of somebody that's a healthy person that lives a healthy lifestyle and manages their weight effectively.
And so just to give a overview for people who might not know,
Mhm.
what is Default Kings? Where did you, again, kind of come up with the branding? Because the branding is fire, so fire. And just how has that progression of that business kind of happened over the past year, 18 months, whatever you want to time frame you want to give it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So what we do is we do online men's fitness coaching. All right. So we work specifically with men. We guarantee they lose 10% of their body weight in 12 weeks or less working with us. And obviously we have continuation programs in there as well if they want to keep working with us after that initial 12 weeks. But primarily we're targeting the weight loss through those default action changes, right? Through changing your subconscious habits. And the reason we do this is because Gabe and I both, and Gabe Pluguez, who's the founder of the company, we both had the struggle growing up of fathers that didn't really have their health in order. And I'll speak specifically on my situation just because I'm more qualified to speak on mine than Gabe's. But my dad was a physical therapist, right? So my dad has a master's degree in exercise science, and it was never a knowledge thing for him. It was just an ability to have these healthy habits consistently. And so the whole point in us teaching the habitual side of things, the psychological side of things, is to make sure that you not only lose that 10% of your body weight, but you actually keep it off permanently. That's the entire purpose. That's the entire birth of default actions, right? It's to make sure this weight loss sticks, because that's the hole that we saw in the industry. And that's the hole that we both experienced in our personal lives with our fathers. And in terms of the branding that stemmed off of that, like I said, it was a pretty natural and organic naming of the company. We started talking about this idea of default actions with clients all the time. And the clients are actually the ones that helped us pick the name of Default Kings. And we ran with it. And we've just gone full in off the deep end with that branding and continue to run with it because it makes sense, because the main framework we teach is the default actions framework. So the name lines up perfectly with it. So man, it was a really organic journey for both of us. And then even with the branding of the company, it was spurred internally through the clientele.
And over the last year and a half or so, how long have you been there? Just a little over a year now, officially,
I've
since you
been
joined?
there. Yeah, I've been there since 2021. So I was involved with them back in September, but actually having like ownership in the company and having an active role, it was May of last year. So a little over a year
Okay.
now, just actually having it. I was super involved with them for almost a year before that, but I wasn't actually, in an ownership position, in an ownership seat until a little over a year ago.
Gotcha. Yeah. And over this past, again, year and a half, you guys have exploded. Your business has exploded. Amazing to see. Awesome to watch. What do you think has resonated about, again, you guys, that branding of default actions that has really driven that growth over that time frame?
I think it's a couple of things, man. I think, and you're in the health space too, so you see this like the biggest problem is there's a lot of quick fixes. We're in a market and an attention economy where people that are in need of weight loss or people that are in need of health solutions, they're getting peppered time and time again with things that are going to work fast as humanly possible and not necessarily stick. And so I think the fact that we've just attacked it from a point of, okay, big problem is make it stick. It's not necessarily lose the weight. There's a ton of solutions that can help you lose weight, right? Like you can do keto, you can do P90X, you can do all these things and you'll lose weight. But will you actually keep it off long term, keep it off for the rest of your life? And that was the hole that we saw. So I think the reason it's gone so well is just because we've dialed in on that specific problem. And then also just being authentic about our values and our stories, right? Like specifically, how do we see the world? We're very open about our faith and our ideology. And it's not by mistake, right? Once we determined the lens through which we see the world, we made sure that we told everybody it, because the people that also see the world through that lens are who we're going to easily coach. It's very difficult to have people come through a program and have completely different ideologies than you and try to coach them through such a transformational process, something that literally is life-changing for people. So being super open about the values and then also sharing our stories personally, right? Like I was talking about, me and Gabe both dealt with this in our families, right? We both had fathers that struggled with their weight, that struggled with their health, and our families had repercussions because of it, right? So I think that's it, man. Dialing in on a specific problem, being open and vulnerable with values, and then also just sharing our story and the reason why we're doing it, right? I think those three things are the biggest reasons.
And what are some of those values that you do really lean into that again, that has resonated with so many people? And why do you think those values have resonated with so many people at this given moment in time?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one, man. There's so many. This can go a million ways, right?
Let's take it everywhere.
Oh, dude, yeah, we can take it everywhere. We got time. I think I'll start with the actual values through which we hire through, are also the values through which we've seen our most successful clientele have. So these three values that we hire through, it's ownership, integrity, and drive. Ownership being, even if it's not your fault, are you going to take responsibility of it, right? Drive, do you have an unending desire to do the best work possible? And integrity, can I trust you with my wife and my woman, or my wife and my woman, my wife and my money, right? So those three values are what we look at in a hiring process. But we've also noticed that the clients that are most successful have all of those. And to answer your question about, why have those rung so true, I think it's because specifically when it comes to ownership, if you think about everything that's happened in the last few years, right? Everything, there's a lot of finger pointing. And that finger typically doesn't get pointed at yourself if you just look at population as a whole. Every passing year, people are going to have less and less ownership. That seems to be the rate at which it's currently going. So to be open and upfront about taking ownership about your health and your situation, it's attractive to people because it's against the grain. It's not what's happening right now. Same thing with drive. Right? As time passes, markets are flooding. There's more and more products. Things are pushing in the direction of volume over quantity, or over quality, excuse me, right? And to have a team and have people around you that are doing the best work possible, it's a rarity in any marketplace, right? It's why the best products are always what wins. So to have that drive just riddled throughout the company is attractive to people, right? And then also integrity, same exact thing. And I'm very open about the fact that from my perspective, and I'm sure you probably agree, the way culture is trending, it's getting pretty far away from what I deem to be morally and biblically correct. It's trending further and further away from that. So again, to stand there and uphold integrity and just be a good person, be a moral person, that's attractive as well, because it's becoming increasingly rare. So I think that's why those values are so attractive.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's kind of a sad fact that like those three things aren't what everybody believes in and tries to stand by, but each of those things really are becoming less and less prevalent with the common everyday person. People don't want to take responsibility for their actions and the situation that they got themselves in. They don't want to be held to a standard of just being a good person and doing the right thing because it's the right thing rather than because of something they may get in return from it. Everybody's always looking out for themselves. Not everybody, of course, but that's how you are filtering the people that you want to work with, both who work for your company and then also the clients that you have. And when it becomes such a rarity like it is today, it's kind of easy to not necessarily stick out, but easy to find your people. And that is what, I get really like this game of like service businesses really
Mhm.
is, right? It's finding your people that you connect with and that you want to enjoy just spending an hour with, whether it's talking about health and fitness or whether it's just shooting the shit about whatever, just people that you would get along with if they happen to be your neighbor rather than
Yeah.
somebody that you found online.
Hope you're enjoying the video. I want to take a brief intermission to let you know that if you are a family-minded man that is losing the battle against permanent weight loss and just can't seem to get it off and keep it off for good, we have a solution for you. So inside of our coaching program, Default Kings, we have worked with over 350 men and helped them lose an average of 30.1 pounds in their time with us. We help guys like Drew lose 73 pounds, guys like Charles lose 26 pounds, guys like Jeff lose 29 pounds, Gavin lose 32 pounds, and Alex lose 41 pounds, and there's hundreds more where that came from. So after working with hundreds of men and producing an absolutely absurd portfolio of client testimonials, we decided to film a free training on exactly how we did it. And all you need to do to get access to that is head on over to our website. It may even pop up on your screen right now or in the description below, but it's defaultkings.com. And once you get there, you will see a big button that says watch free training video. Click on that, check out the free training. And after you see that, if you're interested in potentially working with us directly inside of our coaching program, all you have to do is book that free brainstorm chat with one of our fat loss experts on our team to see if you're somebody that we can help lose 10% of their body weight in the next 12 weeks and keep it off permanently. So I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. And again, to get that free training, head on over to defaultkings.com.
Completely. And I think part of it too, that value set right there, the three that I gave you, like those are very traditional values. And our clientele are typically somewhere between age 30 and 50. Like they're a little older than us. They are more inclined to have those traditional values. So it's something that for them, they come through, they see it, they experience it on the front end, they experience it inside the program, they experience it among the community members. It's refreshing. For them, it's a return to what used to be the norm. Because again, if you turn the clock back probably 20, 30 years, those are pretty common values that a lot of people show that unfortunately in the last few decades, it seems as though people are going away from that. So I think that's part of it too for us that's made it stick is it's what our clientele likes. It's what they're used to.
You would think like when you think of those kind of values, it's like those are, values your grandparents would have kind of idea. Mm-hmm. Why are those values so strong in you when, think of other young guys like yourself. You're 22, correct?
22. Yep.
Yeah, 22. So young guy, doing really well, business, where a lot of other guys in your situation are not putting out those similar values. So is it something that you just have been born with and were continually raised through that value system? Was it something that you kind of maybe lost along the way and came back to, or just why have those values become so strong and such an integral part of your life?
I think a lot of those values stem from a biblical standing, right? Like a biblical foundation. For me, I was raised in the church. My mom was a Sunday school teacher, like the whole 9 yards, right? And like a lot of individuals, the older you get, you'll typically have some sort of phase where you kind of get away from it. For me, that was from age probably 17 to 21 is when I started to probably distance myself a little bit from faith. And luckily stumbling upon such a good group of guys, Matt Moore, who's my roommate now, he's literally on the other side of this wall, right? Gabe, Jack, Matt's brother, Mitch, all the guys that we have in this space really helped me dial that back in and bring that back to the forefront of my life, just my faith. And when you bring that faith to the forefront, you're going to bring those values to the forefront. So for me, they were always there. The foundation was always there. I was always raised that way. I was always raised in that capacity, strayed away from a little bit, as a lot of people tend to. But then really the last year or two here, just dialing it back in and continuing to move forward with that at the forefront of mind has been transformational for me personally, but also our business and also the success of the company.
I think it's 100% a main pillar of why Default Kings has become what it is. Like you said, just people resonate with it and people connect with it on a deeper level because it really stands for something rather than just this kind of flashing moment. They are found principles that have lasted, test time. If we're going back to biblical, 2000 plus years now, like those are the values that have lasted for that long. And so it's something that people can stand behind and people can agree to and know that if they live by these principles, they will be a good person and have a good life and show up when they need to for the things that they need to. And it's just something that really at the end of the day, for me, it's just like, can I put my head on the pillow at night and say like, I was a good person today. Like I treated people well. I worked hard for myself. I tried to improve. Of course, not every day is going to be great. There's going to be days where I'm not as good as I should be or whatever, but is it, 95, 99% of the time, and can I do that? Then that is a successful day.
Completely, man. Yeah. And I think there's this whole other avenue to a faith that's interesting. This is a more like a deeper thought with faith as well. But this idea of you can be a good person, you can be a moral person without necessarily being a godly person, right? And it's something that we've kind of studied recently in just our private Bible studies. But to really, really dial in the faith aspect for us and make sure that God is at the center of what we're doing here with the mission, it's helped us through a lot of hard times, right? Like we just went through a split with one of our founders, right? It's trying times, but we have the faith at the center of everything that we're doing. And that makes it easier. It further connects us to our clientele that also has that in their lives. And quite frankly, I don't necessarily think you can find true, not just happiness, but actual joy, like being able to smile when things suck without actually having that faith foundation in your life. So it's been transformational.
And so let's take a step back now and go back to, again, like a year, not even further than that. 2-3 years ago, you were in college, going to college, become a physical therapist. We're on the path to follow the quote unquote traditional path. Where did you start to really veer off and create your own path?
Oh man, I just wrote this email actually for our email list literally yesterday morning. I kind of wrote about this a little bit, but for me, I was raised by two physical therapists. Just to give everybody context, I know you and I have had that conversation, but both my parents were PTs. That was the layup path for me, was continue to stay in this field that I'd been around since I was 10, 12 years old, just in and out of clinics, continue to just stay in this field, go to school, study exercise science, go do PT, right? It was a very clear-cut path that from a young age, I was like, this is what I'm doing and nobody's going to stop me, right? Like nobody's going to stop me. And once I got into school, I stumbled into an opportunity, right? And again, a lot of people say stars aligned. I always, of course, say God is working, right? I was fortunate enough to be connected with Mr. Alex Hayden. So Alex Hayden is the founder of Closify, founder of Trackify, and now he's big in the no-code software space. I shout out Alex on like every podcast because he really was the catalyst in my journey. But I was connected to him through a guy that I played college soccer with who went to high school with him. And so we got connected. I was doing a thing with that buddy of mine, trying to start a fitness coaching business. We made like no money for 8 months, but me and Alex stayed in contact. And after we kind of shipped off that old company that didn't really go anywhere, Alex was like, just stay in the game. Just like keep posting, keep doing it, keep getting connected. I'll even connect you with these guys, Jack and Gabe, that I know that are doing something similar to you, which of course ended up being, Jack Bly and Gabe Pluguez, who I ended up partnering with. And through the good fortune of connecting with them, I quickly found myself in an opportunity vehicle that was much greater than just continuing to stay in school and go to physical therapy school. I realized that the potential for impact as an entrepreneur and as somebody with a social media persona, it was uncapped, right? It's limitless, which is the name of this podcast, but it truly was. It's a limitless opportunity where it can continue to grow. And so for me, it very quickly became a no-brainer that I needed to go all in on this opportunity with Jack and Gabe and Default Kings. And after about 8 or 9 months, well, actually only after 4 months of knowing them, I dropped out of college. After 4 months, I was 2.5 years into a degree. I dropped out. And then 6 months after that, I moved down here to Florida, and I've been here for a year. So it was a pretty fast process going from, all in, like had a guaranteed seat to a PT school and passed on all these opportunities just to come down here and go all in on this. But when you feel called to do something, I don't think you can pass it, right? I think you have to listen to that divine intervention and those intuitions that you get and just go all in.
Were you unhappy in school, or did you feel like it wasn't for you, or were you just like, you were content there, but you just found this bigger picture, bigger purpose?
That's exactly it. That's exactly. I was content. Like I could have gone and done it, right? Like I even tell people today, like, what's worst case scenario? Like I go back to school. Like it's not that bad. Like I could have done it. I was never a guy that, and this isn't like a humble brag, but I was never a guy that really struggled in school. Like it was always pretty simple for me. It's just like study, show up for the test, pass the test, do the homework. Like it's pretty straight and narrow. It's not too hard for me. And so I was content, right? Like I could have stayed there. I could have had a good time. I played soccer there for a few years. Like I had a good group of friends. I could have gone into a very good career path. That's a growing career, make solid money. And I probably would have been content, right? I probably would have been baseline, but I don't know if I would have been truly fulfilled, right? I don't know if I would have feel like I scraped my full potential, where with this vehicle that I'm in now, I mean, I could do this for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. There's just so much left in the tank. There's so much untapped potential still there right now. Like I'm just getting started is what I feel like. And there's no ceiling. So I think that was probably what did it for me, was just the realization that, stay here where I'm content and where I have a decent, solid opportunity that a lot of people would be happy with, or go scratch the itch a bit and see what I'm capable of. And I think that was it for me. It was scratching the itch.
And what was following that intuition like? Because that's obviously a huge change and something that a lot of people struggle with is trusting that intuition. Is this like an intuition that is trustworthy that I should go after, or is this like a false reality that I'm trying to create for myself that I don't potentially have the potential to fulfill? What was that kind of just thought process going through your head at that time that really led you to fully jumping in, trusting that intuition and saying, hey, I'm going for it?
This is another one that like I have like a part A and a part B for you. So like part A of that is when I have this initial intuition of like, hey, there's this massive opportunity, but it's super, super scary. You're not going to have a degree. You have to make your own income. You have to make connections. You have to do a shitload of content. You have to do all this stuff, right? Like part A of that is, dude, it was scary. It was super scary, right? And what pushed me through it is I realized that pretty much anything that I've really tried my hardest on in my life, or like anything that I've gone after, like I've done a solid job. Like for me, playing soccer in college was a big thing. I did that. For me, getting good grades in high school, it was a big thing. I did that. Getting a good score on the ACT, it was a big thing, but I worked my ass off and I did that. So like I realized that my pattern up to that point was like, if I put my mind to it, like I've always accomplished it to a certain degree of success that I was happy with. So I knew if I just went all in on it, I would figure it out. Right? I'd figure it out. It might not be right away. And I still feel like I am figuring it out, because I am, right? Like we're so early with business and everything, but on a long enough time horizon, like I will make it work. So I had just that self-belief, probably borderline delusional self-belief is what I've tweeted before. And part B to that answer is now how I frame that intuition. Because I didn't frame it like this when I took the move to Florida and when I went all in on this stuff. And even when I dropped out of college, like I didn't look at it like this in my mind. It was pure belief in myself. But now I treat those intuitions as, God telling me this is an opportunity for you that you need to follow. So part A of my timeline was self-belief. Part B now is just belief in God and faith. Like if I have an intuition, if I have a gut feeling about something, it's probably right. It's probably placed there divinely. It's probably placed there by God. And I probably need to listen to it.
And do you have any recommendations for how someone can, who maybe not in your situation, who, because I've had a very similar kind of story that just like whatever I've always focused on and cared about, I've usually figured out and did a good job, got good grades in school, was a good athlete, went on to play football. Kind of, again, very similar story to you. So I had that same self-belief. But, for a lot of people, that isn't the case. It's maybe school is a struggle, maybe work is a struggle, maybe just like I've made bad decisions in the past, so now I don't trust myself anymore and just burned myself once or twice. And so how do we start to kind of cultivate that space to allow ourselves to really understand and trust that intuition again?
I think all of my confidence came from competence. Like I was saying, I had proof of previous victories, of previous, me coming out happy with how I did performance wise. So I had confidence because I knew to myself that I was competent. So I think if you're somebody that lacks confidence, the reason you lack it is because you're either don't have any competence that you're proud of, or you haven't actually realized your competence in some certain domain. So I think it is a matter of you are going to have to sit down, put your head in the dirt, and try to get good at something. Like try to actually become competent in something, because a lot of times what happens is I think people are naturally inclined to be good at certain things. Of course, you have like the genetic factors and your personality type, but you can get good at just about anything if you just do it for a long time. Like you might be more naturally inclined for one thing, but I promise you, even if you're not inclined to be good at the guitar, if you just pick it up every day for like 2, 3, 4 years, you're going to start to figure it out. You're going to be able to play a few songs. So I think it is a willingness to just put your head in the dirt and say, hey, I suck at this right now, but eventually I will suck less and I might even be good. And once that time has passed, you'll then have confidence because you're now competent in something. So I think the only way to get the confidence is to have the competence.
I agree 100%. And I think, I forget what the exact number is, but there's something that shows like, I think it's 80 hours. If you do something for 80 hours, you'll be in the top 90% or top 10% of people in that given skill. So like whatever you're trying to become competent at, it doesn't take a whole hell of a lot of time. You do it for 2 hours for a day for 40 days in 2 months, you're going to be pretty damn good. But like 2 hours a day is a lot of time. Like you have to be willing to sit down there, turn the phone off, shut down all the apps, and figure out what it is that you want to learn about, and then devote those 2 hours with no distractions, no nothing for those 2 hours. And if you can do that for, again, 2 weeks or 2 months, you're going to be in a better situation than 90% of people in that given skill set, whatever that is you're trying to accomplish.
Completely. And most people just quit before they get to that point, right? Like I think it's another one I heard, and I think this is just Hormozy said it. So of course, like entrepreneur hears something from Hormozy, right? And repeats it.
Of course.
Go figure. But I'm going to do it anyways. It's fine. It was something like the first 20 hours of learning a thing is when you develop 80% of your competence. So like if you've never built like a landing page before, if you just spend 20 hours in ClickFunnels, like you'll be 80% competent in ClickFunnels, right? So I think that's the thing too, but most people just quit before they even get to that mark. And that's really it, because competence truly, at least in every endeavor that I've tried to develop competence, it's literally just come with time. Like the longer I've been there, the better I get at it. It's that like there's a perfect graph that's time spent and competence. And most people just stop doing it before they get to a point that they're actually competent enough to have confidence in themselves. Because again, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be like this one specific skill set that like, oh, now you're really going to feel confident in yourself. No, like just prove to yourself that you can do things in whatever domain it is. And that confidence will go to the other domains because you've proved to yourself, I can do this. I can learn this. I've done this. I've done this. You have just a pile of receipts. And that's where the confidence is going to come from.
Yeah. And I think that's why we both, beyond just like our past of being athletes and stuff, blah, 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 like resonate or love fitness so much, is because that is such a proven physical transformation that you can see that your competence of just showing up day in, day out for months, a year, 2 years, and see the physical transformation, the mental transformation that you have during that process, like that confidence then allows you to truly go out and literally do whatever else you want, because you finally fully understand that if I just put in enough time, I will figure it out. I will become competent. I will learn whatever skill set I'm trying to do, and I will find success in that thing. But I just got to keep going. It's a war of attrition in anything in life.
Completely. And like specifically with fitness too, it's one of those things, and this is a lot of things as well, but specifically with fitness, you eventually get to a point where it's just maintenance, dude. It's like a cakewalk. Like it's so easy to just maintain. Now, the trench work of that, 3 to 5 years of actually building a foundation of muscle and learning how to properly move weights without actually hurting yourself, learning how to properly eat, learning what foods actually work for you. Like there is grunt work that has to be done. There's leg work that has to be done. But after like 3 to 5 years of just consistently lifting multiple times a week and just eating clean regularly, it becomes so easy. I think I either tweeted this or it's in the queue, but this idea of I've lived it for a decade now, almost about to be a decade. And I've been hitting a protein goal since I was like 14. So again, almost a decade, right? Like if I took off,
That's amazing.
yeah, literally, that's like I've had a protein goal since I was like 14, dude. Like if I took off like a year, like did nothing, I would still probably look better and be stronger and more athletic than like 90 to 95% of the population. But it's because I laid a shitload of groundwork in a massive foundation. And that's like a lot of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think about it on a social media perspective as well. Like imagine you sit there and you spend 5 to 10 years building a personal brand, building an audience. If you leave for 6 months or a year and come back, everybody's still going to be there waiting for you. But it's going to take a long damn time to build that foundation. And most people just quit in that process of building the foundation.
Yeah, it's the world of instant gratification that
Mhm.
if I don't get something now, then why work for it?
Yeah. It's all fast. It's all fast. Like we were talking about with the fitness stuff and like with our coaching offer specifically, the biggest thing is the fact that the results stick. And you think about like what the best weight loss solution would be in today's world. It would be if you swipe the credit card and you look down and you have abs. Like and you didn't even have to swallow a pill. Like a pill would be pretty cool, but some people don't like swallowing pills. So even if you remove that, that'd be the greatest weight loss invention ever. Swipe card, get abs. And that's what most people are looking for with their solutions. And that's why a lot of people fall off because they're not willing to play the long game. And it is a long, long game. But the longer you play the game, the easier the game gets.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on, speaking of just like pills, what are your thoughts on like Ozempic, which is getting pretty popular, and just like other non-default action-based habits or just actions that people are trying to take in order to lose weight?
What was the pill that you said? I don't know if I've heard of it, actually.
No, so Ozempic. You haven't heard of Ozempic? It's like
I don't
the
know if I've heard
shot
of
that
it.
people. It's like a shot people are
Oh,
taking
shit.
that basically just like blunts your appetite and
Got it.
and
This
just
is
like
another one of those.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like supposedly like working very well, and it was originally for like diabetes people, and now just people are taking it for overall fat loss because it again blunts your appetite and
Got
just
it.
doesn't make you want to eat.
Yeah.
But and so it does great on losing weight, but of course, if you don't actually change your life, if you stop taking it, you're going to go back to the way you were.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, I haven't heard of Ozempic specifically, but like this reminds me of something like I've seen like actual leptin pills, like leptin supplements, so that again, same kind of deal. You're stunting your hunger, right? You're giving yourself a hormonal supplement to produce a hormone that would be produced if you were just eating a high protein diet, if you were just eating whole foods. You're just fast tracking that by giving yourself it in a supplemental form. So this is kind of my thoughts, right? My thought is if somebody's doing something like this, like a very short-sighted, like an injection or a surgery or things like that, like I've had clients in the past that have gotten, bypasses or gotten things like that allow them to actually achieve successful weight loss. My issue with it from a default action perspective and a subconscious habit perspective is a lot of the times the reason that you're in the situation you are if you're obese or overweight is because of your habits up to that point. So a lot of times, like you can go and get a band or a bypass, or you can get a shot. But eventually, if you don't change the habits alongside of it, you're probably going to end up back where you were. That's typically what happens. Now, where I will play devil's advocate on myself here is sometimes people go and they get these things and just it becomes a catalyst for them to actually change their daily actions, right? They actually align their lifestyle in accordance with whatever this shot or solution that they're getting is. So they'll maintain the changes. But that's not the most common case, right? And you've probably seen this too. Like some people will go and get that stuff and it does work and then it'll stick. But it's stuck because while they got that thing, they dedicated themselves to going to the gym more and eating cleaner and going to bed earlier and doing things that are actually going to help keep it off long term. But if you just do it and you don't actually change your habits day to day, it's probably not going to work.
And then why do you guys have worked with what, over 300 guys now?
I think we have 350 on Twitter, but it might be 4 at this point.
Okay. Over 400 guys now. So, you've seen every array of self-identity, why people don't do the things that we all know we should do. We all know we should be going to the gym. We all know we should be eating whole natural foods the majority of the time. We all know we should be going for walks. We all know we should be, managing our stress, but we don't do it for one reason or another. What have you found that are those common themes of why people don't do those things, why their default actions aren't healthy actions.
I think the biggest one, man, is just a lack of belief that they can change. Right? A lot of people have this negative self-identity about themselves where they're just completely locked in this box of I'm lazy, I'm fat, I'm a slob, I'm worthless. And when that's what's actually going on in your brain all the time, which people think like I'm being like harsh with that, like that's honestly like the nicer things that people say, right? There's a lot of deep trauma and demons that people have a lot of the times when they've been overweight for an extended period of time. So if that's the self-talk that's been going on for decades, it really doesn't feel like you can actually change it. Like they don't actually believe that it's possible to change it. And that's why there's an entire sales process when you join a coaching program. It's like we have to actually unpack the fact that you don't even believe that you can change. We have to make you believe that you can change. And then when you actually get inside the program, we're going to teach you how to change those things. Right. So like I think the biggest limiting belief is just the fact that they don't even think it's possible for them to change. And I think one of the easiest ways that we mitigate this, actually, once guys are on the inside, is literally just having a wins channel. I've talked to Andre about this on a little YouTube segment that we do, but like just having a wins channel in a community setting is one of the best things ever, right? Just sharing wins on the timeline is one of the best things ever because it shows other people that it's possible. If every single day they open Slack and they see this guy that's in the program and this guy that's in the program and this guy that's in the program have lost XYZ and they're doing XYZ. And this one guy just ran an Ironman after he was, 60 pounds overweight a year ago. Like that's going to help them actually change that belief. Like they're going to continue to believe, oh, wait, this is possible. Like this guy was in a worse spot than me. This is possible. So I think it's just a constant hammering of having those wins around showing people that it's possible and showing them proof, because the biggest belief that's a bottleneck is they just don't even think they can do it. They don't think it's possible for them.
Self-talk is such a important thing that most people don't realize how goddamn important it is. The stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves are our reality, is what our reality will be. If we tell ourselves we're fat, lazy, out of shape, hate the gym, then yeah, that's who you're going to be. But even if you tell yourself like, yeah, at the time you still might be fat, but if you tell yourself that, hey, I'm like this hard worker, I am fit and I'm just waiting for time to catch up, eventually by your, again, default actions that you will take by telling yourself, you're by creating a story that you are this person that does these type of things, you are slowly rewiring your brain to have those become the default actions and you become that person. But people don't put two and two together, just how important that self-talk is.
Completely. And it's always like perceived from an outside perspective as kind of woo-woo. And I want to make sure you and I both debunk this, because I know you and I both know that affirmations shouted in the mirror mean nothing unless there's actually something acted out as a result of that. Because you can shout all day, I'm fit, I'm fit, I'm fit. But if you're 50 pounds overweight and doing nothing about it and just shouting in the mirror, nothing's going to happen. This is just another form of mental masturbation at the end of the day. So it easily can be that. And one of the ways we mitigate this with guys is we give them what we call a power list. And this is their 3 to 5 tasks every single day that are going to move the needle in the direction of their goal that they're after. So if you want to lose 50 pounds, what are the 3 to 5 things we need to do every single day to make sure you lose 50 pounds? Well, it's probably go hit your workout. It's probably do some sort of movement. It's probably hit a protein goal and a calorie goal, right? You can see how this works. And so not only do you have to actually change the self-talk, you have to actually act out the self-talk. And if you don't, well, you're not really doing anything.
Yeah, expecting anything to actually change without actually changing anything is, you're
and it
now
should
crossing
inspire
into
you.
Delusion.
Yeah, and it should inspire you too, right? Like the actual identity and the things that you're speaking out about yourself, it should actually inspire you to act in a different way. That's the whole entire purpose of changing the self-identity, changing the self-talk, changing the self-belief, because when you align that with what you want to do, you're going to act out those things. And then if you act out those things for a long enough period of time, eventually you're going to just default to those things, right? Somewhere along the way, you just automatically started brushing your teeth, didn't you? Right? Like it happened. We don't know when it happened, but eventually your mom didn't have to come into your room and tell you to go brush your teeth, right? She didn't. So it's the same exact thing with this, right? Eventually, once you've acted out that identity, that belief, you'll default to it. And then you're a new person. And once your identity truly has shifted, it's not just affirmations, but it's actually an identity shift of like, no, like I'm not just yelling at the mirror that I'm fit. Like, I'm fit, dude. Like, I got abs. It's going to be really hard for you to actually revert back to what you were doing before you had that, because you're a completely different person. It's a completely whole identity shift.
And how do you guys? So, I know you guys have your story with your dads, both you and Gabe. But I think for your story, I don't know exactly Gabe's story, but you guys have both been fit dudes basically your entire lives for the most part. And you have guys that maybe were fit at one point and then just lost it just as age, just as many people do, of course. Or some guys who just like maybe never been fit coming through. So how do you guys connect to them on kind of that deeper level that really get them to understand that you understand where they are coming from, despite not necessarily having that exact same story that they are trying to change about themselves?
I think the easiest way to actually provide empathy in a situation like this is to just simply be honest about where you're at. And, I'm very transparent with clients, like, hey, I've never been overweight, but my dad was. And when my dad was overweight, and a day would come by where all I wanted to do when I came home from school was throw the football in the yard with my dad, but he couldn't because he was tired or he was exhausted or he didn't feel like it. That fucking sucked. So I think being transparent about where you're at, like, don't try to beat around the bush, right? I'm just I call it like eating the elephant in the room, right? The elephant in the room is like, well, Joey, you've never been fat. Well, yeah, I know, but I've seen what it can do. And that's where my empathy derives from. So I think you just have to find where your empathy derives from. And even if you haven't gone through it yourself, like the frame that we've gone through is the son frame. A lot of our clients are dads. Hey man, I'm not a dad. I'm not going to try to tell you how to be a parent, but I've been a son. And I've seen how this plays out on a long enough time horizon, right? I saw how it played out for me. Gabe saw how it played out for him. And we can still have that empathy just through our experience of just being sons, right? And having that situation with our fathers. And then also seeing all the guys that have come through the program, right? Like, there's a lot of empathy there after you've worked with a couple hundred people.
Yeah. Yeah. Then speaking of your dad, if you could, I don't know, maybe speak for him in a broad sense. What do you think? Why do you think he struggled so much? Just like you said, he's a physical therapist. He knows the human body as much as anybody and knows what he should be doing. But again, like most men, they don't for whatever reason. Well, what do you think his particular reason, or maybe if you've talked about it, what was his particular thing?
Same exact thing that we talked about here. Same exact thing. Like, I have various distinct memories, and he'll even, admit to this. Like, if he was on the podcast, he'd say the same thing. And just for the viewers, I know, Nick, you and I have talked about this. Like, my dad's like my best friend, right? He's an amazing father. He just struggled with his health. He's gotten it in order, thankfully. But when he was in that time, that period where he wasn't in good health, he'd openly call himself chubby or fatty or look at my jelly rolls. And a lot of guys do this and they'll laugh about it. And I was too young to understand. And I just didn't understand like the psychology and understand it conceptually, that little shot at yourself and then giggle, it's like massive cope. It's massive cope. There's a lot of pain there. And so he had a lot of pain and he had a lot of negative self-talk, a lot of negative self-identities about himself. And even though he had all the knowledge and he wasn't making a conscious choice to, be overweight and struggle with his health, he wasn't making a conscious choice to do that. He just buried himself in a hole of a decade of negative self-talk and negative self-identities and beliefs about what he can do, right? And what he should do. And like a lot of men fall victim to this, because I know he did this as well, is like burying himself in work. It's really easy to come home and just hammer the paperwork and just hammer the job. And it's really easy for guys to validate that. It's like, well, I got to pay the bills. Well, I got to take care of the family financially. Well, it's probably just as important, if not more important, to take care of them from a emotional perspective and as a leader. And it's really hard to have emotional intelligence and be able to lead from the front if you literally are just at a cognitive disadvantage because you have excess body fat and body weight. It's literally just physiologically more difficult, excuse me. Right. So he was in the same spot that basically all of our clients and most guys that are middle-aged and, busy professional guys find themselves in.
I think you nailed it there. That again, just back with the self-talk and, self-deprecating humor is, like you said, one of the worst things that you can do. Like, try and make a joke. Yeah, it's complete cope.
It sucks.
And just
it sucks. It's one of those things, like, you don't realize it when you're doing it either. Like, those guys don't even know. Like, they don't know that they're coping, but they are. And it happens a lot. Sorry to cut you off, but keep going.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, it's just you're telling yourself how you actually feel about yourself in a joking manner, but it's deep down, it hurts. You know it does, and you try and just cope with that hurt by making a joke out of it.
Yep.
And so, getting over that self-talk, getting to start changing those habits, huge. But then let's go into just a little bit of like the actual foundational things that you guys work on with these guys, because and a lot of the people that you work with have had unreal results. I think the most is like 100+ pounds that some guys lost working with you. But when we're in this sphere of health, it can get so goddamn messy. It can get so goddamn just off the wall with people, especially now with like these, the holistic health, the guys that go really deep into like just some crazy stuff, and which works for them. So great. But like, what do you guys really focus on that is able to get these results that not just get the results, but then get them to last?
Yeah, well, I'm going to shout out the cold email wizard, Mr. Daniel Fazio here, for just coining this idea of force multipliers versus micro optimizations, because the same way you would use that language in a business setting is the same way we use that language in a fitness setting, where it's like, I don't disagree with any of the holistic bros, and I think they're right, and I'm on the same page. I'm totally a holistic bro, like at heart. And for myself and my personal day-to-day life, like, try to be as clean as humanly possible, as holistic as humanly possible. The difference is I'm 13-14% body fat and deadlift 500 pounds and squat 450 pounds and train martial arts 5 times a week. My clients are not there. They're not there, right? So I think the difference comes in who is it you're speaking to and who is it you're trying to serve. And for us, like, I don't really speak on the super holistic stuff because the people that need my help and the people that we help aren't there yet. They're so far from that. They have probably 50 pounds to lose. They have probably 15% body fat to lose, let alone get under 15%. They have 15% to lose. And the micro optimizations of, like, eat your raw liver, like drink your raw milk and your raw butter and sun your balls and whatever the hell else you want to do. Like, that's not going to get you there, but it's not the highest leverage thing that you can do to get there where you need to be. And so our biggest focus is the force multipliers. And what do those come back to? It's just fundamental, be a healthy human, right? Like, eat the proper amount of calories, eat enough protein, lift weights, move, sleep, and drink water. Probably be the sixth one there, right? Like, if we do those fundamental things to a T, you're going to be ahead of 95% of people, right? 95% of people don't do that stuff. And so it's one of the biggest things I harp is, like, once you have those force multipliers in place, and especially because now you and I, we could get into like the is calories in, calories out, like, outdated. I've just like bashed that on the timeline and on my YouTube channel, like, consistently. But anyways, we absolutely
let's stop there for a second.
Yeah.
Why do you think that just like thing has become such a hot topic and just such a argued point nowadays? Of
It's
simple
marketing.
Thing that
it's marketing. And that's okay. Like, I'm in the game too. Like, I run a business. I'm marketing too. It's like, that's it. Because ultimately, and what I think people like don't understand conceptually about the calories in, calories out thing, I always use Paul Saladino, Carnivore MD, as an example of this. Calories in, calories out is a failure. Eat less, move more is a failure. The way he's getting you to lose weight is by getting you into a caloric deficit through eating whole foods and eating cleanly. That's one way you can get into a deficit. The way I'm going to get you into a deficit is I'm going to say, pull out MyFitnessPal, get a food scale, and track your shit. We're both getting you in a deficit. He just doesn't tell you calorie deficit, calorie deficit, calorie deficit, because the marketplace doesn't necessarily like that. But the reality is he's still getting you in a deficit. He's just doing it through his unique mechanism of, eating a carnivore diet. Same thing with all of like the intuitive eating bros, right? It's the same exact thing. They're still end of day getting you in a deficit. How they do it is they just make sure you don't have to track calories. And so what we do, kind of like I was talking about earlier, is like, I'll absolutely have you do the force multiplier of learn how to eat the proper amount of calories. I'm just going to have you do it by tracking. And then once you've learned how to track and you understand the skill set of what the hell actually goes into your mouth, then, because on top of that, you've done all these other healthy foundational building things, you're now an actual like functioning healthy person. You can actually trust your intuition. Now let's go out into the world and eat without tracking our calories. And that's kind of how my ideology works. And it's even funnier to like put a bow tie on this, because Paul Saladino specifically says, like in a podcast, I watched the full podcast and I saw this clip specifically about him saying, he's like, let's just eat whole foods. And then if that doesn't work, if you don't lose weight, we'll move on to, step number 2. After just saying calories in, calories out doesn't work. So my presumption, I'm just presuming that step number 2 would be eat those whole foods and then track the calories. That's what I'm guessing step 2 is, right? Like he kind of like laid that up right there. I just do it the other way. I'm like, why don't we just do the easiest thing, which is genuinely just eating less? It's way easier than trying to teach somebody about every single micro-optimized clean food source. Just eat the proper amount of food first. I don't give a shit how you do it. Ideally, it's from whole foods. Try to get at least 80% from whole foods. But at the beginning, I really don't care how you do it. And the longer time goes on and the more consistent you get with that calorie total, the more I'm going to pepper in, hey, let's clean up this choice. Hey, let's clean up this choice. And eventually you have a guy that's eating the proper amount of calories and he's eating a shitload of whole foods. So we do the same thing for you, just in a different order. But yeah, that was a rant. Sorry, that was a rant, bro. But
I love it.
That's like my topic that like I just go in on, is the calories in, calories out, because I'm like, dude, these people, like these guys, they kill me.
It's unreal. And like you said, it's just one approaches it kind of quality versus, or first, quantity second, where you focus quantity first, quality second.
Yeah.
And when it comes very to broad sense.
Yeah, totally. Right. And like you've seen this as well when you've just worked with people in the spaces. Genuinely, probably 80% of the battle of just looking good, like if you just want to look good, like lose weight and shed some body fat, like that's mostly a quantity game. Like there's a reason bodybuilders are tracking their calories all the damn time. There's a reason when they're going to step on stage, they're getting out the food scale and they're weighing everything and they're measuring everything to a T. And those are people whose profession is to look good as humanly possible. And they're tracking all their calories to a T. So if you ask me, that right there is enough evidence to say, hey, the people whose literal profession, the professional sport they do is looking good as humanly possible, looking so good it's inhumane, those guys are tracking calories. You should probably learn how to do that if you just want to look good. Like that's going to be the first majority of the battle. And then the bonus, the micro optimization is, let's get whole foods, clean sources, things like that. But a lot of times, the worst thing for your health is just excess weight and excess body fat. But we can eliminate that just by playing the numbers game. We can. And then we can make it even better when you sprinkle in all the optimizations on top. So I think it's just an order of operations thing, right? It's just like once you get to this point of being an actual, like already pretty healthy, functioning human, let's just micro optimize it and make it even better and become a whole holistic bro. And then you can go sun your balls.
Yeah, I love it. And it's so true though, because like literally there's nothing less healthy for you than being overweight. So like even if like you're eating 50-80% processed foods at the beginning, but if you're losing body weight doing it, that is going to be better for you than eating completely whole foods and maybe you're eating the same amount of calories and you're not losing weight. Like the actual results that you get from that of losing the weight is going to be, like you said, that force multiplier that you're going to feel so much better, which is going to get you to continue to do what you're doing. Then you're going to want to get those optimizations and clean up the diet a little bit, choose better whole food sources. But just getting to that point where, and then like for me, this is where I used to mess up with some initial clients is like I tried to go like not complete clean, but like clean at first, and it's just like, man, like if I just focus on the quantity first and getting them to see the number on the scale go down, even though the number on the scale is like not that important at the end of the day, really, especially if you're lifting weights, but like seeing the change, seeing the physical change, like inspires you to keep going. And so focusing on just the quantity, getting you to the point where you have that buy-in, where the client has that buy-in to say, okay, this is working. Let me continue changing things, twisting things so I can feel better. But just, you got to get them to that initial point first. Like those initial 1-2 weeks of, I don't know how to really put it, but just like those initial 1 to 2 weeks is where you really want to kind of really push, in my opinion. really want to push. You have that motivation. You want to see that quick win, that quick, 5, 6, 7, 8 pounds down in like 1 to 2, 3 weeks or so. And after that, all right, that client's hooked. And then you can start tweaking things. And that's where, or even if you're just doing it by yourself, that's when you see it for yourself and say, all right, now what else can I do to continue to get results? But focusing too much on just either changing everything at once or too much optimization in the beginning without getting that initial quick results to get that buy-in is going to be a recipe for somebody to fall victim to the instant gratification of oh, I didn't see that. Understanding that we all have instant gratification. All right, let's feed that to them. Let's give them that. Let's see that weight go down. Let's see that change. And then they're buy in. And then, like you say, you can change everything else along the way.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. The first 14-day window there is where you want to get everybody wins fast, really fast. And I posted a little green screen TikTok video, but I posted it on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I posted it everywhere. Facebook, it's all over, right? I posted on every platform. But it was me breaking down a thread I wrote about the idea of fast weight loss being unsustainable. And how I debunk this purely from psychological, I could get into the metabolic and actual physiological reasons that losing weight early on and then slowing it down on a long enough time horizon is correct. But speaking on it purely from a psychological standpoint, it's that first 14-day window is when motivation is going to be the hottest. If you sign a client or a client joins a program or you're the client and you just joined a program, that first 2 weeks is where you will inevitably be most fired up to get results. So for us, that's why we're hyper aggressive. We'll start guys below their BMR. Would I tell you to be below your BMR for multiple months at a time? Absolutely not. But for a few weeks, it ain't going to kill you, right? And it's going to get you rolling. And we tell our clients this, on the kickoff call, I'm like, dude, first 3 to 6 weeks, it's going to be aggressive. But you're going to be hyper motivated the first half, the first quarter and the first half. You're going to be hyper motivated, especially that first 14 days. So get the results really early on while motivation is inevitably the highest. And just because you're a human being, you will have less motivation as time goes on. You will. Use that fact as a coach and make it easier. So for us, we do reverse dieting or inverse dieting because of the metabolic benefits, but also because of the psychological benefits of, hey, motivation is really high right now. It's not going to be really high in 12 weeks. So let's make it easier with every single passing week. And that way, by the end, their calories are actually higher than they were when they started. And it's way more manageable and it's way more sustainable long term.
Yeah, it's spot on. And it's like I said, a shift that I've recently made as well with clients, that when people come to you and, spend their hard-earned money, they want to see results. And so give them those results.
Absolutely. And I made the same mistake that you were talking about earlier when I think I was 18 when I had my first personal training client. It was probably one of my mom's friends or something like that at that age, right? I was fresh out of high school. Didn't even have peach fuzz. I still barely have peach fuzz, but I don't have your beard, bro. I don't have
One
that
day.
those luscious locks and that nice beard, bro. I'll get there eventually. But anyways, I made the same mistake of, hey, here's all this stuff that you need to do. And quickly, just through learning marketing, which marketing is just psychology anyways, learning how in a marketing process, that's going to kill everything. If you tell everybody, hey, join this program, we have so much shit for you to do. Nobody's going to do it, one. And then it actually plays out in the fulfillment process too. When you're actually working with a client, if you give a client a shitload of stuff to do, and it's a guy that's been overweight for decades, you give him a task of 25 things, bro, he's not going to do it. And then he's going to get discouraged. So you do need to make it as simple as possible is what I learned. Not easy, because it's still not going to be easy. If I tell a guy week 1 that's been eating 3,500 calories a day for the last 2 decades and his daily needs is 2,000 and he's 100 pounds overweight. If I tell him on day 1, hey bro, we're eating, 1,800 calories. That's not going to be easy. It will be hard, but it is really simple. It's one step. It's just do this. And if you just dumb it down to as few steps as possible, that's how I define simple. It's just the least amount of steps. I don't know what the textbook definition is, but that's the definition in my mind. Make it really, really simple. And then you can just slowly add steps. Okay, cool. You hit this calorie goal. Cool. Let's hit a protein goal now. Okay, cool. Let's hit a clean eating goal now. Let's see if we can eat, 75% clean. Okay, cool. Let's try to sleep 8 hours now. Now he's got 5 steps on his weekly list, but he started with one. But as he gets better, and we were talking about competence and confidence earlier, like now he's getting confidence because he's hitting his objections. He's starting to move in the right direction. Now the psychology is working for him too. It's inevitable that he succeeds. So I think you absolutely have to stack it that way as a coach. And it works, right? And even if you're not a coach, if you're just a person listening to this that just wants to lose weight by yourself, like do that for yourself too. Like literally start off simple and just add in things over time. Don't throw the kitchen sink at it. Because I made that mistake too, and people were not happy with it. One, people didn't want to buy it. Two, when they did buy it, they were pissed. So that's how it went for me to start too. So I've been there, bro.
Yeah, and for the people who, what I've said a few times on social media now is like, if you're just like trying to change habits in general, maybe lose some weight, maybe just like build better habits in general, like pick one habit and do it for a month. And then next month, choose a new one while still continuing that habit, of course, that first one, but do that for a year. And if you've built 12 new habits that are healthy, that are good for you, that are like moving you forward in life, like think of how many people actually change 12 things in their life in a year. Very few, very few. So if you do that, you will be in a complete new place by focusing on one habit per month.
That's good.
And if you're just willing to commit 1 year, 1 year of your life, 1% of your entire lifetime to one habit a month, you will be amazed at what you will be in 12 months, 18 months afterwards.
Dude, that's good. I've never heard the one a month. That's good. Yeah, because if you think about it, like that's so simple. There's so few steps there. And again, I think a lot of people too misperceive like simple versus easy. And I've just made sure to draw a hard line in the sand, especially when I'm talking to clients of like, this is what simple is. It means few steps, but I am by no means telling you what you are about to do is easy. It is going to suck. Like any change sucks. No matter how simple a coach can make it, it's still not going to be easy. It will be hard. It will require a change in the things that you've done. It's gonna. So there's going to be pain involved. But can we make it just as simple to understand as possible? So yeah, dude, that's really good. I've never heard that before. That's good.
Amen, dude. So let's talk about, to finish out, the Ozarks. You recently went out for a few days and camped out with our friend Barefoot Will on Twitter. Awesome dude. So just tell me a little bit about that journey, that weekend, couple days you spent, and what you learned from it.
Oh, dude, I'm beaming. Did you see my face light up when you asked me that?
Oh, yeah.
Man, dude. First of all, Austin is the man. You've met Austin, right? Have you hung out with him?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. He's the man.
I haven't met him in person, but.
Dude, you got to meet him. You got to meet Barefoot Will, bro. You have to. I love that guy. He's the best. Amazing person. And, he's somebody that in our lives we've always viewed as like a shaman in terms of our peace of mind and like just slowing down and enjoying life and being spiritually just connected with God in the present moments, right? And so when he reached out to us and was like, hey, boys, I have this thing. I think it would be really good for you. No questions. We were like, yes, like send the document, like signed. I'm in. Let's do it. And man, it was amazing. It was everything I hoped it would be and more. So I couldn't recommend it highly enough. To actually get into stories from that. Where do you want me to start with stories? I just wanted to give him like the massive plug shout out there because it was the best and he's awesome. But where do you want me to start?
Yeah, so just what did it with the weekend? Just what was the itinerary, I guess? And
yeah.
Then like what was just some takeaways afterwards, kind of reflecting back, or just some takeaways you had in the moment?
I have my notebook here, so I'm going to pull it up as I kind of explained to you. So it was actually it was like a Wednesday through a Sunday, right? So it wasn't just a weekend. It was 5 days. It was 5 full days. And for context for the viewers and the listeners, it was in the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas. And it was just straight up camping without our phones, though, which a lot of people that regularly camp, they're going to be like, oh, that was easy. That sounds like paradise. It was paradise. It definitely wasn't easy, though, because I don't think I've ever gone a 5-day stretch of not having cellular reception or anything like that. And so for us, the biggest thing there was just the detachment, right? It was learning how to actually detach and just be present in the moment, because I think a lot of people fall victim to this, not fall victim to it, we do it to ourselves, but especially people that are entrepreneurially minded or just high energy, high testosterone type A guys, of just go, 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 go. Like, what's on the calendar next? What is the next task I need to accomplish? And Austin was probably the first person in my life that's ever been able to actually get through to me and be like, yo, you need to like clear your calendar more. And that was one of the biggest takeaways. Like, since that, like, I don't take many calls. Like, I used to be a guy, like, I remember I've tweeted one time, I took like 14 calls on a Friday. And that used to be like my Fridays. Just talk to a shitload of clients, talk to a bunch of people, do all this connecting, do all those things. But it was like, hey, what if we just cleared a few days a week to just have nothing on the planner and just let creativity happen? And it was the first thing I did when I got home, and I haven't gone back, and I don't see myself going back. But that was the biggest thing, man, was just learning to actually slow down and just be in the present moment, man. Just be there where you're actually at, be where your feet are. So that was the biggest thing that I pulled away from it. I pulled up my notebook here, but let me look through here and see if there's anything else that comes to mind for me. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm looking at some of these notes. Like, this is stuff that I was writing while I was there, like in the thick of it, right? But man, something he asked us was like, what's going through your family's mind? Like, what do you think they're thinking about now that you're gone? They can't contact you, things like that. It was just such an interesting perspective to be out there and just be completely detached and literally have your phone just locked in a box. We had no other option than to sit around the fire and talk. And one of the things that he did to us was he didn't tell us what the itinerary was. And at first I was like annoyed, right? I was like, bro, like, what are we going to do? Like, tell me. And he's like, dude, this is, Austin, right? Like, he's like, bro, this is like the whole point of you being here, brother, is to not know what you got going on and just be here. And I'm like, yo, dude, give me something. But he forced us not. He didn't tell us. It would just like 1 o'clock would roll around. Well, I didn't know what time it was either. Just middle of the day would roll around. He'd be like, all right, boys, get in the truck. We're going on a hike. I'm like, oh shit, that's cool. Or middle of the afternoon would roll around. He'd be like, hey boys, come on, we're going kayaking. It was just awesome experience, man. It was just the first time in my life where I've ever had to just forcibly not know what's going on and just be in the moment. So it was amazing, brother.
And what is that that space you've now created for yourself to just be allowed in your life that maybe was there before, but just allowed more of it, or maybe it has allowed space for something new altogether to come into your life?
Where we were at in terms of the business before going to the Ozarks, I mean, we were still, partnered with Jack, and he was mostly in charge of like the creatives, the marketing, the front end of the business. I wasn't necessarily in a creative role. I still made content, but like content was not my main priority. My main priority was the day-to-day operations of the business. And so it really lined up because shortly after that trip is when we all decided to mutually part ways and go do our own things, do our own missions. And that led to me and Gabe kind of being pushed to the front of like, hey, you are on the creative processes now. Like, it is on you to drive traffic and generate traffic and create content that people love. And so, again, I think it was a God was working moment of me concluding, hey, I probably need to clear this calendar so I can be a little more creative. And then like 3 weeks later, it's like, you have to be creative now, which was new for me. So luckily I just had already carved out that time for myself. Like you're talking about, like I already had that on my agenda of, okay, I have a pretty clear calendar most of the week. I have time to be creative, but I intentionally created that space. And I was inspired to do that by Austin and, by God's intervention there to tell me to do that, and him to give me that intuition to actually execute on it. And then a situation fell into my lap where now I need that time, but I actually already had it carved out. So it was a super organic process to make that happen, but it's been transformational for me just to actually sit back and focus on the creative processes of the business, which is typically on the front end, right? It's writing copy, it's updating the website, updating the landing page, positioning the offer, things like that are just super creative processes that I'd really never been forced to do until recently. And it's been awesome. It's everything I could have ever wanted.
And what is your creative process, if you have one? Is it going out for a walk, trying to just see what comes to mind and then put some notes down and then write out the copy? Or is it just, some people it's sitting down and just kind of gritting it out. Like, this is my creative time, and I'm going to sit here and just be creative, write things out until something makes sense or anything along those lines?
It's a little bit of both. Most of it's studying. For me, it's turning on, brainstorm calls, sales calls, prospect calls, all these conversations that people have with us before joining, and figuring out, what is it that's driving people to actually join? What is it that may have prevented that person from joining? And then also listening to client spotlight interviews. I have a ton of them on my YouTube channel, just guys that we've worked with that have seen results, and going and listening to those and hearing, what is it that guys like about the program? What is it that has helped them be successful? And literally just by making my inputs constantly, prospects and also former clientele, like, I'm very super, super aware of the problems that people have, but also the dreams that they're after and the outcomes that they want. So for me, like, that's the starting ground of my creative process. And then I build all my content around that. So it's like, hey, I heard this thing on this call, I need to go make content about this. I heard this thing on this call, I need to go make content about this. And then you obviously, redistribute it. Right. So for me, it's a lot. There's actually a lot of consumption involved with the production. I'm not too much of the gritty, just force it. Cause if I'm not feeling like I can write something good, I'm not going to pump out some garbage that I just forced down. I still might get words on that paper, but I'm going to come back to it before I actually finalize it. So I'm like a half grinded out kind of guy. Like, I'll put some words down, but I'm not going to publish it until I feel like I put my creative spirit into this and I really am happy with what it turned out to be. So I'm not big on forcing it out, because it usually turns into garbage when you do that, is what I've learned.
Yeah. I feel you on that, man. And this was awesome. Like I said, it was well overdue for us to reconnect. It's inspiring to watch what you guys are building at Default Kings, all the lives you guys are positively affecting, and just making this gigantic impact on both people that are work with you and just like everybody in general who follows you. Like, even if they don't work directly with you, it's, again, super inspiring to see. And just going back to those values that we talked about, for you guys to be doing it in the way that you're doing it, with those values top of mind, driving real positive change in the world. It's awesome. And I can't wait to see you guys continue to crush for the future 5, 10, 20 years, however long you decide to want to continue to do it, man. So it's been awesome. And if people want to get in touch with you, learn more about Default Kings, where's the best place for them to reach out?
Defaultkings.com, man. That's where you can find everything in regards to our business and what we do. If you want to reach out to me personally, I always push people to Twitter, just at Joey Yochheim, JoeyYochheim. And that's my handle on Instagram too. So Twitter, Instagram, that's where my DMs are open. So anything you guys need, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. And I'll have those linked in the show notes, so for anybody can easily reach out if they feel called to. But Joey, man, brother, again, this was awesome, brother. It was great catching up.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me, brother.
Absolutely, man. Take it easy.
Peace.
Awesome.